Back to another SJ Games Live. Today I'm joined by our special guest, Ben Williams. He is one of our production artists, and we're going to be talking about Ogre Miniatures Set 2. We're really excited about this one. If you recall, we had Ogre Miniatures Set 1 successfully kickstarted last year. It is delivering to backers now, and on Monday, November 13th, we are launching Ogre Miniatures Set 2.
Set 2.
We were super pumped for it, and Ben has actually been painting up the miniatures. We're going to give you a bit of a show of these and run through each of the different minis that we have and give you some paint tips here. But let's switch over to the miniatures
All
here.
right.
And he actually did the diorama as well, so you just built all this terrain pretty much the past week.
Yeah. We had one project come in, and it was like, Ben, stop working on the terrain, and then they were suddenly like, oh, no, wait, we need that for the stream on next Thursday. You got to get back on that. So
There you go.
yeah, I just kind of tried to put together as much stuff as I could. And I love building terrain, but this was the first time I've ever worked on anything this scale, so it was all new.
But it came out really, really good.
Well, thank you so much.
And we've got, this isn't every miniature in the set, like as far as each...
It's every kind
It's every
of
kind of miniature, yeah. So let's take a look at, let's start with the Ogre. It's right there in the middle, kind of the elephant in the room. That is the Ogre Mark IV.
That's the Mark IV, yeah.
Let's bring that one a little bit closer.
A little closer to the camera. Okay, so you big Ogre fans will probably know the difference between this and the Mark IIIs and Vs even better than I do, but it's a little different. If I remember correctly, this one was more built for speed, and it has a bigger kind of missile battery going on in the back.
I want to say, I may be incorrect, but I think it's called an Ogre Ninja, essentially. It's faster.
The Ninja, I think, is slightly different.
It is, okay, so maybe that one's just a different version. But yeah, this
I think
is...
they're based off the same hull, though.
That might be why I get them confused.
I did do a little reading in the Ogre book, the Ogre Miniatures book, not the Ogre book, that's a different book, before this to try to get a little info.
Cool. I like this one a lot. So the Ogre Mark V, if you remember from the first set, we actually have one right here.
Oh yeah, let's bring up that bad
just
boy.
to bring a comparison, we have a Mark III and a Mark V. These are from the original sets.
This will even up the fight a little bit because this guy was pretty badly outnumbered.
So as you can see, the Mark III is a little bit smaller, and then you got the in. There you go. Gonna crush the GEV there.
Well,
And then you got the Mark IV, which is a little bit in the middle, and then the Mark V, which is obviously built for more hardcore armament. Let me pull these out though. And that's set one that'll be in stores very soon, as soon as it
and
finishes.
some of you may be
backers.
finding it in your mailbox soon.
Yes. So let's take a look at some of the defending units here. We've got. Let's pull up the fencer there.
All right, so this is a fencer, and we decided that we're pretty sure this is the fencer B because it has two of these main batteries located here in its turret. We also have a fencer A. They will have the two different turret types, so this is not quite as advanced. So this is, each of these is like one of these on this guy back here, and again, it's got a very different sort of missile system from the Ogre. But if you're just learning about Ogre now, this is the other faction's big fighting thing, and they do have different rules in the game.
Yeah, Pan-European is essentially kind of the defending forces, and Combine is the attacking forces, the Ogres, essentially. Another big heavy armament here, we have the Mobile Howitzer.
But yeah, the Mobile Howitzer is going to be doing a lot of damage to the enemy Ogre. Unsurprisingly, you might have figured this out from the name, it's a howitzer, only mobile. So it sacrifices a little bit of attack strength for the ability to move around the battlefield and stalk its prey, maybe find its way into a better firing position. Because the regular howitzers, they don't get to move.
That's true, yeah. One of my favorite units out here, if you want to pull that one closer, is the Super Heavy Tank.
Yeah, double-barreled on this guy. Very strong. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to be looking at the frame. So yeah, very strong. This is probably the heaviest just sort of unit you can get. A lot of armor, a lot of damage output.
Yes, and I love the look of it. It's so flat, but it's still really defensive looking to me. I don't know, it looks strong.
Yeah,
I love the model. Now, one of the cooler things in this set, infantry are back, but we also have a carrier for them. This is the Gev Transport. And it actually lets you clip in 3 of the infantry figures. These are similar to the ones we had in the first set. It's exact same ones. They're actually compatible with them.
So you can just put them in and out.
Yeah, there you go. And this is actually with the paint on them and everything. We're able to pull them in and out just fine. So yeah, that's a really cool use for it. I love the fact that we can actually integrate the miniatures onto the other minis, and you can functionally
so you don't have to paint them
it.
twice.
Exactly.
Unless
there you go.
want to.
We have a couple smaller units there too. We have the light tank, which looks really cool to me. It's got almost an ogre-like little spindle, like antenna coming off of it, which is neat.
This is sort of satellite dish on the back, and then I guess it's got the little fin is just sort of for speed. I take it.
Yeah. It looks like a recon tank to me. I like it a lot.
It's a cool little turret.
I'm a fan of that model. And then we got the light GEV, which looks a lot like a regular GEV, just a little bit shrunken down.
I think weirdly I might like the light tank even more than the heavy tank. There's just something about that weird sort of hammerhead shape that really makes it stand out.
I dig it. I dig both of those. I
And
like
this is the
light GEV. Sorry.
this is the light GEV now.
Now, looking at all these models, where did you take your inspiration from on these paint jobs? Because these paint jobs are phenomenal, guys. I want to iterate that these actually come unpainted. So this is what, like for the fencer, this is what Ben started with.
Yeah.
And then this is what
them yourself.
he became, which is amazing. Like these models all come unpainted, but they obviously take paint really, really well.
Well, you do. I would advise this with all plastic. You always want to find a good primer first. I use Tamiya. I use the most expensive can they sell of Tamiya at my store anyway. I don't know. Hopefully, there's no like $50 can out there that I'm sending you guys off to buy. But it's just the fine surface gray primer because you really want a nice flat surface to work with. And I would just advise that not just for our miniatures, but pretty much anything that you're going to paint, you want a good primer. Anyway, so where did I draw my inspiration? I mostly just drew it from 6th edition and the Ogre Designers edition. Those are all very brightly colored units, and they look really cool. So that was just sort of where my brain naturally went. Was just let's make these minis just as bright. And that's really about all there was to it. Steve was the one who liked the yellow the most of all. I did a bunch of sort of color tests with the set 1, and those ended up being his favorites. Now, for anybody out there who's painted yellow, it is a nightmare to paint.
It is. I have tried it on other games, yes.
Fortunately, right around the time I started painting these, I was also learning to use my airbrush. And, man, I got to tell you, if you want to paint yellow, like getting a good airbrush, especially if you want to paint it consistently, if you want to do a huge yellow army like this one, or if you just really love the color yellow, you want to do all your miniatures from all your different ranges in yellow, an airbrush that's going to be your best friend. I think it's a Badger Patriot 150 or 105. And it's just it's just, there's no better way to lay down a nice flat coat of yellow because blending it's so difficult to blend it evenly and to get out those kind of transitional sort of brush marks that you see.
Mm-hmm. And you've done, and not only, and not to say that everyone's going to be able to replicate this, but that's some good tips and tricks for the trade just in a general sense. Like what you've done here is a lot of amazing shading. Like what you guys are seeing on screen, you may see shadows here on the ogre, but those are actually created by the way that Ben has shaded them. So a lot of the shadows and things you might see are actually done in the paint job. You may not be able to replicate all of that, but it gives you a good idea. He's mixed a lot of different techniques into this, highlighting, shading, things that you can.
And then just a lot of edge highlighting to really bring out that strong geometric shape that really sort of defines the ogre itself and also the units. It's got a lot of hard lines and angles to it. It's very cool.
It's got a retro future design.
It's definitely that old school industrial feel. And while I did paint these up super clean and nice, while I was thinking about it, I thought these would also look great if you almost did like a more damaged and beat up look.
Weathered, you could do tiger striping. You can do all sorts of really, really fun, cool designs. You've actually talked about this on your 2 Mini blog, which I'll link in the description below or above wherever you see that. He's done a couple articles on that. Plus, you've painted tons of minis. So if you and a lot of those techniques, like I said, they even if it's from other miniature lines, those same techniques can work with Ogre Miniatures as well. So you have a lot of great tips and tricks on your site that can apply for this.
If you want something a little faster, we can bring back that Mark 3 and 5 that Hunter had brought out earlier. This is just a much faster, just dry brushing method, and these models all take really well to that. So if you don't, want to get the airbrush, but you still want to bring in all that detail and those little lines, you can do plenty of that with just dry brushing. It works really well.
I'm a big fan of dry brushing myself on my own models. I do that a lot. So this is more my style for something like that, and it doesn't take very long, which also helps. Or it takes a little bit less time, I'd say. And also, if you want to take another look at some other variations on painting the miniatures, our friends over at Game Trade Media also did a video today. Dave and Big
buddy,
Rick. Yeah, they've both painted up a set of Ogre Miniatures Set 1 live this week on Tuesday and Thursday.
Did they do the whole set?
They did a few of them. They did the infantry. They were doing tanks. They did some ogres.
Nice.
But guys, thank you for bringing these in and for building all this terrain, Ben. We really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, well it was fun. It was an experience. There was a lot of learning just because again, like I said, I don't normally do stuff in this scale. So just getting in there with my fingers and just like building all these little walls and doing all that stuff was a new thing.
Well, it looks great. So, guys, thank you for joining us today. Look for this Kickstarter Monday, November 13th. That's going to be this upcoming Monday. It'll launch sometime throughout the day there. If you follow us on Kickstarter, you'll get an alert when it launches, and we'll be announcing to all the social media outlets. Plus, if you're a background in any of our other Ogre projects, you'll know about it that way as well. We're really excited. As you can see, Ben has done a really amazing job with these
Thank
minis.
you.
He's been working on these for a while, and they came out spectacularly. So these are just waiting for you to paint them at home as well. So back is hopefully get a few sets of these. We have pretty good value on these. We don't want to share all the pricing just yet, but just know that you'll be able to get a lot of miniatures for a pretty low price, I'd say.
Yeah.
One of the main things is going to be like the value. Probably, I think the set comes with over 50 miniatures this time versus over 40 the first time. So we're really excited about that. You're getting a lot of content. So Ben, thank you for coming.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for letting me show off all this stuff I've been working on.
We appreciate it as always. We'll probably have Ben on in the future, show off some more Ogre Miniatures. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on SJ Games Live.
Thanks.